Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, November 11th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It is Veterans Day, a day to honor and thank those who served in our military, communities locally and across the country paying tribute. Our coverage begins with KPBS reporter John Carroll.
Above the din of the 5 freeway, the mournful sound of taps filled the air at the Logan Heights Veterans Memorial in Chicano Park. A familiar sound conveying through music a nation's heartbreak at all those lost to war. Another familiar sound, this one conveying a nation's pride, and the veterans gathered as they do here every year, showing their pride in the country they served.
My father was a veteran, my grandfather was a veteran, so I've been raised with a veteran family.
Moses Salas served for 17 years in the Army. He saw service in Panama during the 1980s and in the First Iraq War. While this is a day to remember those we've lost, Salas says there's more to it than that.
So today to me is like a grand day, man, because it's our birthday. It's a celebration that we can have and let the younger veterans know what it's all about.
Over here at the USS Midway Museum, more of a party atmosphere, a celebration for and of our veterans.
We treat our veterans with the utmost respect here.
Ernest Williams served 8 years in the Navy, retiring here to San Diego. I asked him the same question I did every vet I talked to today. How is San Diego when it comes to the treatment of vets?
Very much a military town, very accommodating to the veterans. I mean, what more can you ask for?
I was an MS, a cook in the Navy. I served on board 3 ships.
Keith Howenstein served in the Navy for 11 years. Like Ernest Williams, he also retired here. And like Williams, he says special events for vets like this one mean a lot.
It means a lot. It's recognition of the people that thank us and say thank you for all of our service and our dedication and our sacrifice. And I appreciate everybody being here today, remembering us.
And that's really what this day is all about. From World War I to today, remembering with gratitude all those who've served. John Carroll, KPBS News.
A wreath was laid today at the tomb of the unknown soldier. President Joe Biden commemorating Veterans Day by visiting the final resting place of 3 unidentified U.S. service members at the Arlington National Cemetery in Washington. One of the service members fought in World War I, one died in World War II, and the third died during the Korean War. Biden said there is nothing low risk or low cost about war for the women and men who fight it.
You are the very spine of America, not just the backbone. You're the spine of this country. And all of us owe you. And so on Veterans Day, and every day we honor that great debt and recommit ourselves to keeping our sacred obligation as a nation to honor what you've done.
And it was on this day precisely 100 years ago on November 11th that this monument was dedicated. For the last 2 days, members of the public have been invited to lay flowers at the plaza. It's a first in 96 years. And the Biden administration has announced new support for troops exposed to environmental hazards during deployments. So-called burn pits were a particular concern. They were used to get rid of waste hazardous material and chemical compounds at military sites throughout Afghanistan and Iraq. 86% of post-9/11 veterans who served in those areas say that they were exposed. A military veteran and his father are getting quite the reunion today. As KPBS's Alexander Rangel reports, it's decades in the making.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. Hey, Dad. Welcome back to the United States. Welcome back.
A long embrace with his son standing on American soil. It's the one gift Robert Vivar wanted to give his veteran son on Veterans Day.
Incredible journey, a lot of struggle, but a lot of guidance from God.
After winning a legal battle that lasted nearly 2 decades, Vivar was able to restore his lawful status in California and come back home. His son Bobby Vivar says there were times he doubted this day would come, but his dad never lost faith.
I got a ton of emotion right now, I'm super excited. I can't wait to see him, I can't wait for his granddaughters to be with them and, hug him and, because he missed a lot.
From birthdays to holidays, Vivar missed years with his family after pleading guilty to a shoplifting charge in 2002. Little did he know that plea would get him deported to Mexico, but a new state law allowed him to come back.
The California Supreme Court finally issued a decision that set precedent and allowed him to vacate the conviction that was the reason why he was deported.
Vivar's lawyer, Dane Schickman, says there are so many deportees with similar stories.
So many people have been unjustly exiled from their families, people who are as American as anyone standing here.
Robert Vivar is not a veteran, but was raised in a military family. While living in Tijuana, he became a voice for deported vets.
We care for our families. That's why I got so involved with deported veterans, because even though, they were not my blood, but they're our family as well.
Vivar serves as co-director for United U.S. Deported Veterans and says he will not stop fighting to help vets who were deported.
Just like our logo on our shirt, leave no one behind, which is the Marine logo. We don't leave no one behind. We're gonna go back home. Hoorah!
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
This week, the Poway Unified School District voted to hold the next meeting virtually. As KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado explains, school board members are receiving death threats from anti-COVID mandate protesters.
Motion carries 6-0.
This is no ordinary vote for a school board.
Due to the continual imminent risks to the health and safety risks of staff and board members, we recommend that the board approve conducting the regularly scheduled Poway Unified School District Board of Education meeting on November 18, 2021, online via virtual video conferencing.
On Monday, Poway Unified School Board members voted unanimously to hold their next meeting online because they felt so unsafe.
The protesters have also visited board members and the superintendent's home in the past several weeks to personally deliver stacks of manifesto documents. Board members are also receiving death threats to them and their family members.
During the special meeting, Superintendent Dr. Marion Phelps described how protesters have terrorized school officials on district property and their homes.
Hours prior to our October 14th board meeting, protesters were arrested by the San Diego Police Department, refusing to leave the building after doors were locked, refusing to wear masks, and refusing to leave the building after it was officially closed.
Student school board member Winnie Hsu was at that October meeting.
In that moment, it was definitely, a terrifying experience that a public meeting was being stopped based on a riot against mask mandates. In the moment, I think I was almost in shock that it was actually happening in our local district. And, we were the board members who were being targeted.
And has also been receiving threats.
It's definitely been harrowing as a senior in high school experiencing these things, especially serving in such a public role.
Hsu said meetings should be held online in light of those incidents and another on Monday.
For me, it's definitely saddening to know that we have to do so for our personal safety. It's the right thing to do for the time being.
Hsu says school officials are merely following the state's public safety guidelines. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
It is hot out there, and San Diego County is currently experiencing elevated fire danger due to Santa Ana winds and higher temperatures. KPBS reporter Melissa May says even though there is no red flag warning, the public should still be mindful of their actions.
Out there, right? Where humidity is less than 20%. We have winds that are gusting into the 40s in certain spots. So it's dangerous out there, but it's manageable.
Chris Ahrens is the meteorology program manager for San Diego Gas and Electric and says current weather conditions should not require any public safety power outages or red flag warnings. Ahrens and his team work with the Fire Potential Index, an algorithm that answers the question, does the environment support fire?
And we look at the weather as the winds, and we also look at how much moisture is in the air. So it's really a moisture problem. Is there moisture in the air, moisture in the plants, and moisture in the dead sticks? And if the answer is yes to that, then the fire danger is less. And if the answer is no, then fire danger is very high.
Thankfully, due to the recent thunderstorms, there is moisture, so the landscape does not support fire. Even though weather conditions are not critical, other factors could ignite a wildfire.
During these conditions, the data has shown that 90% of the fires that happen in Southern California are caused by human beings doing something.
It may have been a while since you've taken out that trailer. We have vehicle fires that start vegetation fires quite frequently, and it's something that a lot of people don't think about. But if you don't maintain your vehicles, maintain your trailers when you're towing, if you're being careless and dragging your chains as you're towing, those things can all start fires.
CAL FIRE San Diego Captain Thomas Schutz knows how fast wildfires can spread when Santa Ana winds are present.
These fires don't give you a whole lot of opportunity to get out when they happen this time of year because they're spreading so quickly.
Schutz says the winds are a reminder to be prepared.
Whether that's throw a couple things in your go bag today to be ready, make sure your vehicle's fueled up, make sure that you have a plan for your large animals, your domestic animals, make sure you have multiple ways out of your neighborhood.
According to Ahrens, high winds are predicted again on Friday morning, but should taper off through the weekend. Melissa May, KPBS News.
The path to net zero emissions is paved in collaboration. Today, Mayor Todd Gloria joined San Diego with an alliance of more than 1,000 cities working to lower greenhouse gas emissions. Gloria says joining the city's Race to Zero international campaign is imperative to align with international goals. The City of San Diego Our Climate, Our Future plan sets a target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2035. That is ahead of the city's Race to Zero target of 2050. Mayor Gloria has been at COP26 this week, the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference. Vaccinations for kids ages 5 to 11 are ramping up nationwide, about 1 million so far. County-wide, more than 7,300 children in that group have received their first dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Overall, more than 2.5 million county residents have received at least one shot of a COVID-19 vaccine, and more than 279,000 of those have received a booster. As Britt Conway reports, there are serious concerns about vaccine equity nationwide.
All done with his first COVID-19 vaccine. And he's not the only one. The White House estimates nearly 1 million kids 5 to 11 have gotten their first dose. With about 700,000 pharmacy appointments on the books, 114 children's hospitals and doctors' offices are offering vaccinations too. And there are mobile clinics in some places, along with school clinics. But getting more kids vaccinated is often a battle against hesitancy and sometimes equity. A recent poll shows parents with lower incomes are less likely to get their kids in that 5 to 11 age group vaccinated, with concerns about getting time off work or finding a way to get to a vaccination site, along with educational disparities. Experts say more education generally comes with more acceptance of science. COVID-19 vaccines aren't the only vaccine doctors are worried about, though. The CDC says 22 million babies worldwide missed their vaccinations last year during the pandemic, worsening the global threat of measles. All the while, kids' cases of COVID are on the rise again. The American Academy of Pediatrics says this past week there was a more than 6% increase in cases from the week before, and winter is coming.
This is at its heart a winter virus, and I think that as we head into winter, we will likely see a bump in cases. That's the most likely scenario.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
Flu season is here, and county health officials say so far fewer people are getting their shot. Just over 762,000 San Diegans had received a flu vaccine. That's compared to 850,000 during the same time last year. That is about 90,000 fewer people. 287 flu cases have been reported in the region so far. That's compared to 18 at this point last year. County health leaders are urging people to get vaccinated, especially now that COVID gathering restrictions have eased compared to last year. Not a surprise for those of us who live here, but San Diego is the top destination for Southern California holiday travelers. Las Vegas, the Grand Canyon, and Yosemite and Santa Barbara round out the top 5. Amtrak announced it will require reservations for Pacific Surfliner trains that run from LA, Orange, San Diego, and other counties over the Thanksgiving weekend. Reservations will be required beginning on November 24th through the 29th. During that time, the rail-to-rail program will also be suspended. Reservations can be made at Amtrak.com, the Amtrak app, or with an Amtrak agent.
Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you had an excellent day, and thanks for tuning in to KPBS News. I'm Marvin Gomez with your AccuWeather forecast for San Diego County. High pressure still in control across our area, which will allow us to continue to experience that offshore flow across Southern California, and temperatures are going to stay above average for this time of year into the weekend. Some changes do start taking place next week, and with that being said, that means an onshore flow will return, and that fog will once again come back into our area for the middle of next week. But tonight, we're staying nice and clear. Temperatures in San Diego cooling down to 62 degrees. That'll be the low in Chula Vista as well. Borrego Springs 60 degrees. Mount Laguna at 56. There it is. High pressure in control throughout the southwest. Those highs during the afternoon for most of the region about 10 to 15 degrees above normal, and with that offshore flow across Southern California, we have that elevated fire risk across our area, and as of right now, we don't have any alerts for San Diego County. Here's a quick look at tomorrow's forecast. Mostly sunny conditions. Borrego Springs 88 for your afternoon. Escondido near 92. Along the coast, Oceanside, mid-80s for your afternoon. Into the weekend, high pressure still in control. An upper level high pressure system will bring some cooler conditions for Northern California, but again on the southern end of the state, we're still tracking that offshore flow, so temperatures are going to stay in the 80s along the coast, and finally into the middle of next week, or at least for Tuesday, the high will eventually return back to the 60s. Inland areas, we're in the 90s for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and eventually we will get into the mid and upper 70s for Tuesday. Across the higher terrain, mostly sunny conditions, very windy for our Friday, with plenty of sunshine staying with us here into the weekend. Then across the deserts, we're going to stay on the warm side, 80s, upper 80s for Friday, and then near 90 degrees as we go through the weekend and into the early part of next week. For KPBS News, I'm Marvin Gomez.
Father Joe's Villages is setting aside units in its new affordable housing facility for veterans. There are 407 units inside the new St. Teresa of Calcutta Villa downtown. It will offer fully furnished studios to those in need, including at least 80 veterans. According to the latest count from 2019, 2,500 veterans in San Diego were experiencing homelessness.
Obviously, they're very near and dear to our hearts. We serve veterans all the time. Just this past year, we have served over 1,400 veterans.
Residents will begin to move in starting in January. The facility will also offer supportive health services and vocational training. California is on the verge of having a license plate dedicated specifically to women veterans. As KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh explains, it would mean more than just symbolism.
At the wee age of 19, I found myself in Kuwait preparing to invade Iraq.
On this Veterans Day, the Foundation for Women Warriors hopes to pass another milestone. At the moment, California does not have a license plate honoring female veterans, says CEO Jody Grenier.
Part of our mission is to honor the service of women veterans. There's a number of challenges they face, and we believe that a lot of those challenges are because they haven't received the same recognition as their male counterparts.
In 2020, women made up more than 17% of the military, but they are still often not recognized as veterans, says Grenier, a Marine veteran who served in Iraq.
There's been numerous incidents where a woman parks in a veteran spot and is often confronted saying that that spot's for a veteran, when in fact she is the veteran. And so this is just another way for society to get on board and realize that women are serving in increasing numbers.
It can be isolating, contributing to issues like veteran suicide. It can make it harder for women to demand changes in veterans' health care. In Southern California, 60% of female veterans face housing instability. Army veteran Cynthia Taylor.
It's hard to find other women that serve in the military, so when we do find one another, usually we cling to one another and use each other as a resource, but it's really hard to find one another because there's not a great sisterhood or community out there.
Something as simple as a veteran's decal on a California license plate can help women connect with one another. The design was created by a female Vietnam veteran. At least 50 people need to sign up for the plate before it can be offered by the state. The Foundation for Women Warriors is asking people to sign up at their website. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
San Diego and Tijuana have won the designation of World Design Capital. The World Design Organization says it chose the two cities for their commitment to human-centered design and their legacy of cross-border collaboration. The San Diego-based nonprofit Design Forward Alliance will be spearheading a host of events when the designation starts in 2024.
There will be a policy conference, a network cities meeting, which brings together the cohort of other World Design capitals, and also street festivals and celebrations of design in the region. So it's going to be a very packed year on top of all of the amazing initiatives that already exist here that we will be showcasing during that year.
Those events could bring a much-needed boost to San Diego's tourism sector as it recovers from the pandemic. It's the first time the World Design Capital has been awarded to a binational region. COVID has brought change to so many lives. Sometimes the change has led to rebirth. KPBS reporter John Carroll shows us how a local nonprofit survived during the pandemic, bringing the arts to school children across San Diego County.
A typical pre-COVID scene in a San Diego classroom.
2, starting with our slaps, we go.
A teaching artist from what was then known as Arts for Learning San Diego, bringing the gift of music to children. Then the pandemic hit.
When you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, you need something to bring you back and ground you. And that's what we get from the arts.
That was Adrienne Valencia last year in a story we did in the early days of the pandemic. What Valencia didn't know then was the extraordinary challenge COVID would be for the organization. Like so many others, the group went virtual.
Our teaching artists were absolutely brilliant and made those changes very quickly.
But more changes would have to be made. COVID meant a significant loss of funding.
Schools were finding that they had to put their funding in different places. And so we lost about 50% of our income pretty quickly.
Valencia and her staff knew that for the organization to survive, some difficult decisions were ahead.
We let go of our office space, and we've been working remotely since the end of October 2020. We took a few elements of our business practice and put them in-house, such as our grant writing and our accounting.
But all that wasn't enough. One more big change, a painful one, was still to come. The group had been affiliated with Young Audiences of America since the late 60s. The national group has branches all over the country dedicated to bringing the arts to school children. Valencia and her board decided retaining membership with Young Audiences just wasn't worth it.
We just found that it made more sense for us to separate from them.
Separating from young audiences meant change from top to bottom. The group rebranded itself. They're now known as Arts Education Connection San Diego. A new name, a new logo, but the mission has not changed. A dedicated group of teaching artists still share the arts with children through 5 disciplines: music, theater, dance, visual, and literary arts. Sharing, teaching the arts to children during the darkest days of the pandemic revealed a silver lining. The separation from our friends and family was eased a bit by the kind of togetherness that only the arts can bring.
That really relates to our new name, because the arts really do connect us to one another, connects us to history, connects us to science, connects us in so many different ways.
As COVID recedes and arts education returns to libraries and classrooms, Adrienne Valencia says she's more confident than ever about the future.
The whole rebranding thing was a very intense process. It has actually re-energized us and re-energized our name in the community.
We interviewed Valencia in the Malcolm X Library, one of many locations where Arts Education Connection San Diego has conducted their programs. The process of returning to places like this is now underway.
Many schools are very excited about having in-person programming again, and so that is getting off the ground. Some venues are still requesting virtual programs, and so we will continue to do that.
Continuing to do that takes financial support. If you'd like to help out, or if you're just curious about Arts Education Connection San Diego, you can check out their newly redesigned website, artsedsd.org. The first thing you'll see is their mission statement. Arts are essential, learning is critical, and art in learning is transformative. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.